Hey there, I'm Marvin, and welcome to Buddy Up Gaming. Terra Invicta is a deep, demanding 4X strategy game built around a fascinating question. How would humanity actually respond to the discovery of a hostile, technologically superior alien force? It's an incredible experience once it clicks, but it's also a monster when it comes to complexity. New players are immediately confronted with a huge amount of information. And while the tutorial does a solid job pointing out tools, panels, and available actions, understanding when and why to use them is often left for you to discover through trial and error. In this comprehensive beginner's guide, we're going to walk through what makes for an effective early game strategy and break down the systems that support it. Experience is still the best teacher in Terra Invicta, but these tips will give you a strong foundation and hopefully save you from a few painful restarts along the way. Playing Terra Invicta on default settings is a marathon that unfolds over several in-game decades. With hundreds of turns ahead of you, it's easy to get lost in the moment-to-moment decisions, so it helps to keep the major milestones in mind from the very beginning. Your first milestone is establishing control on Earth using your Councilors. We'll talk later about which nations are best to target, but your early focus should be on maximizing research output. Faster research unlocks critical technologies sooner, and those technologies open up the capabilities you'll need to survive and eventually thrive. Your Councilors themselves are the workhorses of your faction, so a parallel objective is maximizing their effectiveness. That means improving their stats as they gain experience and acquiring organizations that provide powerful benefits. These can include stat boosts, access to new missions outside a Councilor's default role, and global bonuses like increased research output or improved space mining efficiency. Another critical responsibility your Councilors handle is uncovering alien activity. Advancing your faction's story requires investigating alien abductions and enthrallment attempts. Later on, you'll need to acquire alien samples to truly understand what you're facing, which means developing Councilors capable of detecting, capturing, and even killing alien agents. The early game ultimately culminates in establishing your presence in space. Space-based resources are essential for building fleets capable of standing up to rival factions and eventually the aliens themselves. Like everything in Terra Invicta, this starts small. You'll begin with a mining base on the moon, and then leverage those modest resources to push outward to richer sites on Mars. Once you've secured strong positions on Earth and stable mining operations in space, you're firmly in the mid-game. At that point, your resource gathering and research capabilities open up many strategic paths, from reinforcing Earth-side dominance to constructing defensive fleets to protect your growing space infrastructure. With that roadmap in mind, let's talk about how to start a new game on the right foot. Your most impactful decision at the start of a new game is which faction you choose to play. While the core mechanics remain the same, each faction's philosophy toward the aliens dramatically shapes your experience. In particular, playing one of the two pro-alien factions, the Servants or the Protectorate, means you'll never have to fight the aliens to achieve your victory condition. That can make for an easier run, but I generally recommend avoiding those factions for your first few playthroughs. Learning how to manage alien aggression is a huge part of what makes Terra Invicta so compelling, and skipping that challenge robs you of some of the game's most memorable moments. There are also several custom options designed to shorten a campaign. These include the accelerated campaign setting, which adjusts research costs and resource output, the 2070 start that gives you a pre-built space infrastructure, and nation groupings that let you begin with control of major powers like the US, China, or large federations. Personally, I'm not a fan of these options for beginners. Building your foundation from scratch, on Earth and in space, is a big part of what makes the game so rewarding. One customization I do recommend is choosing the professions of your two starting Councilors. Pick an activist for your first Councilor and a tech mogul for your second. To understand why, let's take a closer look at Councilors themselves. Councilors are how your faction exerts influence on Earth. Each Councilor belongs to a specific profession, which determines their starting stats and the missions they can naturally perform. Missions generally fall into two broad categories: those that target nations and those that target rival factions. Early on, you'll spend a lot of time running control nation missions to capture control points. If the odds aren't in your favor, public campaign missions can boost your faction's popularity in a nation and improve your chances. You'll also regularly use investigate counselor missions to identify rival agents and gather intelligence. Higher intel directly increases your odds when taking hostile actions, such as stealing organizations or assassinating enemy counselors. Counselor stats form the backbone of mission success. High persuasion improves your ability to control nations, while espionage supports more aggressive actions like sabotage and assassination. Traits add another layer, offering bonuses or trade-offs that shape how a counselor performs. The astronomer's trait, for example, boosts space science research, while the sociopath gains persuasion at the cost of loyalty. Over time, you'll want to develop specific counselor archetypes. A high persuasion counselor with control nation and public campaign missions is essential early on. Later, a high investigation counselor paired with a high espionage counselor can dismantle rival factions by purging their control points and eliminating their agents. Finally, a counselor with a high administration and the hostile takeover mission allows you to steal powerful organizations and further amplify your strengths. The activist and tech mogul we recommended earlier naturally fill these early archetypes, making them an excellent starting combination. With your counselors ready, the next question becomes, where should you apply them? Nations are the economic and technological backbone of your faction. Each nation is divided into control points, with each point providing specific benefits, and the final point granting control over military and diplomatic actions. Unclaimed points can be seized with control nation missions, while claim points require successful purge operations. Each control point also counts against your total control point cap, which limits how much territory you can govern. This cap can be expanded through research and by improving the persuasion, command, or administration stats of your counselors. Exceeding your cap comes with penalties that make your holdings harder to defend. Once you control a nation, you can direct its investment points. These determine how the nation develops over time. Knowledge boosts research output, military improves army effectiveness, boost and mission control support space expansion, welfare and unity stabilize the nation, and spoils provide a one-time injection of cash at the cost of long-term stability. Smart strategy means matching nations to roles. Small nations with high spoils values can be exploited for quick money, while large nations like the USA and China serve as long-term research powerhouses. Capturing those major nations takes patience though. You'll often need to build influence through public campaigns and control neighboring, non-rival nations before making your move. With your initial nation secured, it's time to focus on the technology that will turn political power into real momentum. Technology in Terra Invicta is split into global research and faction-specific projects. Global technologies represent humanity's collective advancement, while projects apply those breakthroughs to your faction's goals. This split is one of the game's smartest design choices, reinforcing the idea that progress is shared, but how it's used is not. The game begins with 3 preset targets for global research: We Are Not Alone, Skywatch, and Mission to Space. From there, whichever faction contributes the most research to a global technology earns the right to choose the next target. Controlling the global research agenda is especially important in the early game, since it determines which projects you'll be able to unlock to support your overall strategy. That said, during these opening phases, you'll most likely only have enough research output to secure control of one of the three paths. Once you've locked down a strong research nation, like the USA, maintaining control over all three research paths becomes much easier. With that said, early on, your focus should be on expanding into space. So let's dive into the strategy for building your presence there. Resources you mine in space are what let you build stations, outposts, and eventually your fleet. The catch is that you don't start with any of those resources. So early on, your only way into space is boost, the ability to launch materials up from Earth's gravity well. That works fine close to home, but using boost to build anything beyond Earth and the Moon quickly becomes prohibitively expensive. Because of that, your first real space objective is setting up a mining base on the Moon. Lunar resources are usually pretty meager and not something you'll rely on long term, but even a small amount of mining there dramatically reduces the boost cost of building your first mine on Mars. From there, Mars becomes your real prize. Its richer deposits support sustained growth and make fleet construction viable. With that foundation in place, we've now covered the core systems that define Terra Invicta's early game. So next, let's walk through how to put all of this together during the first 3 years of your first run. When you first load into a new campaign, it's worth taking a pause before assigning any missions. Start by looking over your initial Councilors and note any traits that boost persuasion or research output. Then head straight to the Recruiting tab. Ideally, you want to hire at least one additional high persuasion Councilor as early as possible to help secure your first research nation. If you followed our recommendation and started with an activist and a tech mogul, you'll also want to keep an eye out for a Councilor who can handle the investigation-based missions. Specifically, Investigate Councilor, Detain, and Crackdown. This isn't urgent on day one, but having someone with strong investigation later will be essential, so it's smart to watch for good candidates. Just remember that the recruiting pool refreshes every second day of the month, so check back often. Next, jump over to the Technology panel and set your research priorities. Early on, you should commit 100% of your global research to a single one of the 3 starting paths. Your goal here is simple: contribute the most research so you get to decide what global tech comes next. Personally, I like prioritizing We Are Not Alone, since it unlocks the project that allows you to hire your 5th Councilor. On your very first turn, make sure one of your Councilors investigates the alien crash site. This kicks off the main investigation chain into alien activity, and gives you a nice early boost of influence and science. During this same turn, world leaders convene at the UN, giving you the option to announce your faction's intentions. While this does expose your Councilors to rival factions, the influence reward is well worth it, and usually lets you immediately hire your 3rd and 4th Councilors. At the same time, you'll be deciding which research nation you want to anchor yourself in. Over the next several turns, focus on controlling neighboring countries to improve your odds when running public campaigns and control nation missions. As you assign missions, keep an eye out for organizations in the Councilor tab. Early options are limited, but every now and then you'll find organizations that boost persuasion or administration, both extremely valuable stats early on. Since organizations cost money, it's also smart to grab a few smaller nations and set them to 100% spoils. Countries with low control point values and high spoils output, like Oman or Tajikistan, are perfect for this role. Once you've secured your first major research nation and gained control over global research priorities, it's time to pivot towards space. Your early research goal is establishing mining beyond Earth, with Mars as the ultimate target. To get there efficiently, start by researching advanced chemical rocketry, which unlocks the High Thrust Probes project and drastically reduces the time it takes to send a probe to Mars. You'll also need Mission to the Moon and Mission to Mars to probe those bodies, followed by space mining and refining for the Outpost mining complex. Finally, grab nuclear fission in space so you can power Martian bases with fission piles. While space tech is progressing, don't neglect your control point cap. Increasing it allows you to expand beyond your first research nation. To find the relevant projects, open up the tech tree, enable full search, and input control point management. I recommend starting with global command structure, then working your way through the 10-point projects unlocked by the arrival social science technologies. Along the way, you'll also unlock arrival markets and institutional outreach, both of which expand the organization market each month. Strengthening your counselors remains one of your top priorities, so these projects should be completed as soon as possible. As research continues and you acquire new organizations for your counselors, you'll also need to stay alert for signs of alien activity. After investigating the initial crash and completing the Alien Signatures project, you'll be able to detect alien abductions. While the game recommends surveil location missions, these are unreliable at best, so some of this comes down to luck. Investigating your first abduction unlocks alien methods, which then allows you to detect enthrallment events. Investigating an enthrallment then unlocks alien operations, enabling direct interaction with alien agents. From here, faction paths diverge. Pro-alien factions will establish contact and negotiate an accord. Everyone else will be tasked with assassinating an alien agents, so their scientists can, well, learn what makes them tick. All of this alien investigation matters because it unlocks your faction's unique victory project. Completing it provides a massive control point cap increase and a powerful, unique organization. When this unlocks depends on your faction. The Servants and Humanity First gain it after Alien Methods. The Resistance, Academy, and the Protectorate after Alien Operations, while Project Exodus and the Initiative must push even further down the tech tree. By the time you've established mining on Mars, expanded your control point cap, and completed your faction's unique project, you're officially transitioning out of the early game. With that groundwork laid, you're ready to step into Terra Invicta's midgame. And before we wrap things up, let's take a quick look at what your next major objectives should be. The midgame is where Terra Invicta starts asking you to scale up. Up to this point, you've been laying foundations. Now, it's about turning those foundations into something that can actually hold territory in space. That means expanding your political reach on Earth and building the fleets needed to defend what you've claimed. Once your control point management is in a healthy place, your first major objective is securing a second research nation. You'll approach this exactly the same way you did with your first, running public campaigns, grabbing neighboring nations, and steadily locking down control points. If you've been holding onto smaller nations purely for spoils, this is usually the moment you let them go. Freeing up control points is often necessary to make room for another major power. After you've secured that second research nation, take a look at how you're allocating investment points. Your weaker research nation is a great candidate to start dumping investment into mission control. Both of your next goals, upgrading space infrastructure and building a fleet, are extremely mission control hungry, and failing to prepare for that bottleneck will slow your progress dramatically.
Where to?
When it comes time to design your first real fleet, the most important advice I can give is this: ignore the combat strength number. Terra Invicta consistently undervalues fleet strength, even when your ships perform perfectly in actual battles. Instead, focus on how your weapons behave in combat. There are three main weapon types in the game: magnetic weapons, lasers, and missiles, and each has clear strengths and weaknesses. Magnetic weapons hit incredibly hard, but their projectiles are slow and easily dodged by small and medium alien ships. Lasers can deal massive damage as well, but only at close range, and the more powerful variants are locked behind expensive global technologies that you won't want to tackle this early. Because of that, the mid-game largely belongs to missiles. They're fast, hit hard, and are much more reliable against early alien fleets, though they do require reloading after each engagement. Researching the Missile Warfare Doctrine global technology unlocks several missile options, but my personal favorite is the Viper missile, which comes from the Hydraulics Fragmentation Warhead Missiles project. Arm escort or monitor class ships with Vipers, and use magazine modules in the utility slots to increase their payload. Of course, the aliens will also be using missiles, so defense matters just as much as offense. You'll want escorts equipped with point defense laser turrets to protect your missile boats. In a high wall formation, a single point defense ship placed in the center row can effectively cover 2 missile ships, making this an efficient and reliable setup. Your final major mid-game objective is upgrading your space infrastructure to Tier 2. These upgrades provide steady but meaningful improvements, faster ship construction, increased mining output, and access to powerful new modules that boost research, control point cap, mission control, and more. Many of these bonuses are especially strong when built in low Earth orbit, so it's important to claim those slots early before rival factions beat you to them. With a second research nation secured, a functional fleet in place, and Tier 2 infrastructure coming online, you'll be firmly established in the mid-game, ready to start pushing back against both rival factions and the alien threat itself. Terra Invicta rewards patience, planning, and a willingness to learn from your mistakes. Its systems are deep, interconnected, and often overwhelming at first. But once everything clicks, few games deliver the same satisfaction of guiding humanity through one of the most critical moments in its history. I hope this beginner's guide helped clarify Terra Invicta's core mechanics and gave you the tools to build real momentum in your early runs. And once you've got that foundation in place and find yourself really settling into the game, that's when it can be fun to start experimenting with more advanced strategies. If you're looking to push the limits and take the fight to the aliens earlier, be sure to check out our Jupiter Rush video series, where we break down how to secure powerful space resources before the aliens can. If you found this video helpful, consider giving it a like and subscribe to Buddy Up Gaming for more family-friendly strategy guides, reviews, and deep dives designed to help you and your family tackle even the most complex games together. Take care out there.